You know, when you're obsessed with horror to the unhealthy degree that I am, you find yourself sitting through mountains and mountains of garbage, scouring through Reddit to find something, anything, that'll fix that itch that you've been looking for. And I believe I found it. Webcast 2018 was something I had no expectations of, but I was completely surprised when encountered with the best folk horror, the only folk horror found footage film I've ever seen. Without further ado, my very patient audience, relax and unwind as we plunge into the world of cults and naked old people. The film follows Chloe and Ed as they try to figure out what happened to Chloe's Aunt Amelia. Everything that we see is from the perspective of Chloe's live stream. This gives the film an excuse of why we're seeing these events. It's something that every found footage movie has to do in some way to ground us in the setting. And as we know with some films of this type, it can be a struggle to suspend our disbelief long enough to be effective. As we wonder, why are they still filming during all of this bloodshed and whatever horrific events are happening in the movie? But the good news is that Webcast pulls this off quite well, I think. With that tangent aside, early on, Chloe takes Ed into her aunt's room, and it's been left completely untouched since she disappeared, which is a little off. Then we get a look at Amelia's drawings. At first glance, they don't look like much, but the film lingers on them just long enough to tell you they do mean something. It just refuses to explain it yet. In the next scene, we see Chloe taking care of her grandfather, who is in a vegetative state. And right away, we start to connect things. Is this related to Amelia? The film wants you asking these questions. Then we move downstairs, where Chloe and Ed start going through old family tapes. Chloe talks about how it feels like she's lost half of her family in a really short amount of time. And in less than 10 minutes, the film has already set up multiple threads. A disappearance, strange imagery, and a broken family, with a web of mysteries tying them all together. A film like Webcast succeeds by feeding you just enough to keep you on the hook. With Chloe's intent to find out what happened to her aunt, she decides there's no better way to find answers than to talk to the people that knew her. And lucky for her, it's her grandfather's birthday, and the whole town will be attending. At the party, we soon find out that Amelia had quite the mysterious past. At the party, we get multiple descriptions of who Amelia was. Some say that maybe she just ran away, or that she was flirtatious with men, perhaps even a prostitute, which would explain her disappearance. Some even claim that she was just crazy. Now, viewer, we know not all of these can be true. Things start to get suspicious when certain people don't want to talk about Amelia. There's a moment when Chloe questions a lady at the party named Lorraine. Lorraine seems to think that the people in this town are hiding something, and their silence implies horrific details. Later that night, Chloe finds one of Amelia's dresses and decides to wear it as she depicts what it might have looked like when Amelia went missing. When suddenly, during the attack, two men who we've seen previously at the party restrain the woman and sedate her. The next morning, the man we've seen last night introduces himself as Dr. Colby, with one of the women that Chloe had met earlier at the party, named Hulda. They then tell us that the girl's name is Summer and that she's been struggling with addiction, withdrawal, and they're doing their best to help her. And it all sounds reasonable, but here's the problem. If we look back at the footage, we see the marks on Summer's wrist. Her urgency, why would she attack Ed and try to get his attention? And knowing how evasive they were at the party, they can't be trusted. That night, the unease crystallizes. Chloe and Ed find Lorraine standing in their yard, holding a hammer, It's bizarre and disconnected, but if you're paying attention, there's something even more disturbing in the frame. A man in a flower mask. Up until now, the film has trafficked in suggestion and social tension, but this is the first confirmation that we're dealing with an actual threat. Later on, our nosy couple gets the idea to spy on Hulda, as they film her bringing a man with a walker into their home. Ed and Chloe take the opportunity and eavesdrop, but all they hear is gospel music. When Ed returns and isolates the audio, something else emerges beneath it. Later, the same elderly man exits the house without his walker, miraculously healed. There's definitely something supernatural taking place, and it's definitely not holy. The horror is effective here because it presents like evidence and keeps just enough distance to maintain ambiguity. Is this cult behavior? If so, how far does it span? This keeps the tension alive. As Chloe and Ed dig through more old family footage, another deeply unsettling detail surfaces. Several of the same people we saw at the party appear in archival recordings. Chloe and Ed slowly start to realize that they haven't aged. And just as we realize this, we see Amelia herself in older footage, writing those same strange symbols we saw in her notebook. This is no longer a coincidence. The symbols and the neighbors, it's all part of the same ecosystem. At this point, Ed starts to crack. Up until now, he's been the more grounded one, but as more evidence surfaces, he can no longer deny what he's seeing, and he wants no part of it. Amidst the panic, Chloe and Ed reconnect with each other in an intimate way as an attempt to ground themselves. After this intimacy, we learn something else. Chloe carries her own trauma, an incident involving 3 boys in her past. This scene is used to develop Chloe as a character, and will later explain why she's so adamant to find the truth. That night, Chloe and Ed capture Summer being escorted out of the house by the neighbors, so of course, Chloe and Ed have to follow them. They tail the group into the surrounding darkness and quickly lose them. Chloe and Ed are baffled by this, as there are no turnoffs in sight. Before retreating though, Chloe has the bright idea to mark the location on her phone. Our couple returns home to wait. Eventually the neighbors come back, without Summer, and then comes the image that changes everything. The group begins digging in their own backyard. The film doesn't rush this moment, it lets you sit in the implication. If Summer left with them and didn't return, and now something is being buried, the conclusion is obvious and terrifying. The following day, Ed distracts the neighbors while Chloe slips into the yard to investigate, and what she finds appears to confirm their worst suspicions. Blood. For the first time, the mystery feels solvable and concrete. They have legitimate evidence, or should anyways. And nothing happens. No urgency and no consequences, which introduces a far more unsettling idea than cult rituals or masked figures. Whatever's happening here is far larger than just a small group of neighbors. Even the cops are complicit, and that realization shifts the stakes again. It's a circus of evil. The following day, the events intensify. Lorraine, the same woman we previously saw standing silently in the yard with a hammer, is rushed to the hospital, apparently having smashed her own face in with it. The film doesn't sensationalize the violence, it presents it almost clinically, but the pattern is becoming undeniable. Proximity to whatever is happening in this town leads to a slow destruction. Meanwhile, Chloe and Ed return to the marked location in the woods. When they arrive, they find a forest floor covered in apples. It's an image that feels overtly symbolic, biblical or pagan in nature, perhaps. And then our couple begins to hear a low, distant whooping call, echoing from every direction. Not close enough to see, and not far enough to ignore. This is one of the film's smartest horror choices. It uses spatial uncertainty. The threat isn't shown, but it's positioned around them. Just like before with the man in the mask, they are being watched. And, for the first time, the audience feels the same claustrophobia the protagonists do. Ed and Chloe flee the scene, but the force doesn't leave them untouched. Later, Chloe discovers something forming on her skin, a strange boil. It's subtle body horror, where the implication does much of the legwork. And this, my wonderful audience, is what Webcast 2018 does remarkably well. It layers dread. There are very few traditional jump scares, very few explosive confrontations. Instead, the film tightens its grip gradually. Conspiracy, ritual, isolation, bodily change, every detail stacked carefully like a house of cards, waiting to topple over. The following day, Chloe's dog goes missing. Up until now, the horror has targeted neighbors, outsiders, and distant figures. The danger felt ominous, but slightly removed. But just like with the boil on Chloe's skin, it feels intimate. Pets going missing is a classic horror trope, and for good reason. It immediately establishes high stakes, which at this point is what the story needs, as whatever's happening in this town starts affecting Chloe and Ed more and more. Through this, Chloe hardens her resolve. The boils begin to multiply, and then the film crosses into something deeply unsettling. Chloe begins vomiting foreign objects, cigarettes. This may seem odd at first, but Chloe throughout the movie has been seen smoking. It seems as if this sickness that she's experiencing is tailored for her. And just as the supernatural symptoms escalate, Dr. Colby steps in, which is convenient. He consults with Chloe's mother and plants a carefully measured idea. Perhaps Chloe is mentally ill, perhaps just like Amelia. Even though we've seen the footage and we've heard the chanting, the film allows the possibility, just for a moment, that everything might be reframed as delusion. Dr. Colby's attempt at gaslighting also shows how far this group is willing to go to silence those who oppose them. This revealing detail stacks one more layer of horror to this cake that we are wholeheartedly enjoying. While Chloe rests, Ed uncovers something else. Older footage of Chloe attempting to expose local drug dealers by recording them for the police. It's a revealing detail. Chloe has always been this way. And through this we see why Chloe's grandfather is the way he is. When you first watch the film, this subplot can feel disconnected, but it isn't. It explains everything. Her grandfather suffered because she tried to expose something. So now, when faced with another hidden evil operating in her community, she can't back down. At home, the tension turns domestic. Fighting between Chloe and her mother begins to fracture the household. Dr. Colby's planted doubt starts doing exactly what it was designed to do. One night, her mother begins making disturbing noises before tumbling violently down the stairs. The pattern is undeniable. First Amelia, then Lorraine, then Summer, and now her mother. Chloe herself is already showing symptoms. Whatever happened to Amelia wasn't an isolated tragedy. While Chloe stays at the hospital with her mother, the threat follows Ed. He finds his own camera sitting outside in the yard. The couple is now being handled. When Chloe returns home, she realizes one of her mother's necklaces is missing, and immediately her suspicion turns inward. Why steal something so personal? And then we get the footage. We're finally given a clearer image of the mask seen from the window. Iconography for whatever this group is. At this point, it's safe to say that we're firmly planted in pagan territory. Found footage normally leans paranormal, but here, the handheld intimacy is used to document something ancient. Symbol by symbol, the house of cards we've been watching stack itself so carefully is beginning to tremble. The next morning, any remaining doubt evaporates. Chloe and Ed spot the same police officers who dismissed them earlier, casually visiting the neighbor's house while off duty. No urgency, no investigation. They actually seem quite familiar. And with that, the conspiracy is solidified. With Ed and Chloe feeling cornered by this realization, they decide to escalate. Full infiltration. Ed enters the house first. The gospel music returns, but now we recognize it for what it is. A mask, just like the ones they wear. In the kitchen, he finds apples filling the sink and a freshly baked good. Suddenly, the earlier imagery snaps into place. The forest floors littered with apples, Hulda bringing baked goods to Chloe's mother before her sudden decline. This poisoning is part of their process. As Ed moves deeper into the house, the chanting grows clearer, no longer muffled, no longer ambiguous. We see this.
What? Get back! Get your phone back! What the fuck? Come on!
What follows is the scene the film has slowly been building towards, the cult revealed and pursuing them openly, naked, unmasked by modesty. Now, in all honesty, I can understand why this image might not land for everyone, but here's why it works. Nudity in horror strips away more than clothing. It removes social boundaries and communicates shamelessness. Just think about it. If these people are willing to abandon something as basic as clothes, what other limits have they discarded? I also think there's something to be said about the corrupted innocence of it all. Culturally, we're conditioned to see the elderly as gentle and harmless, but this scene weaponizes that assumption. It replaces frailty with predation. It's definitely an inversion that leaves a mark. So anyways, after being scarred for life, at the end comes the final confirming blow. Hulda, in a flash, appears young, and now the cult's motivations start to crystallize. There's a reason why the people in this town seem not to age. Whatever ritual they're performing steals youth from its victims. After the confrontation, Ed and Chloe manage to barricade themselves in the basement, temporarily cutting off their pursuers. And fittingly, this is where the film finally lets the truth surface. Hidden among the clutter, they find wax molds, encasing personal items belonging to different people throughout the town, pieces of their identity. And suddenly, everything aligns. This is why the necklace was taken. This is how they control people. And then Chloe finds one made just for her, a cigarette embedded in wax. Her physical decline finally making sense. Chloe realizes this the same as we do and smashes the effigy, immediately collapsing on the floor. While Chloe lies unconscious, Ed presses deeper into the basement, and what he finds reframes the entire story. Hundreds of VHS tapes, each labeled with a name. Whatever this is has been going on for a long, long time. Ed finds one of particular interest, Amelia. He watches as the cult buries her alive in a ceremonial fashion. By the time Chloe regains consciousness, the cult has breached the basement and the couple flee further underground, only to discover the final horror of this place, a labyrinth branching beneath the town, connecting house to house. Our stomachs begin to sink as we realize this isn't a cult operating in a town. The town itself is a cult. They manage to surface onto the street, and for the first time the scale is revealed in full. Masked figures pour in from every direction. Familiar faces now rendered monstrous by anonymity. Chloe thankfully manages to escape back into her house, but Ed does not. Alone and shaken, Chloe checks her live stream. People are still watching. For a brief moment, there's hope. Maybe help is coming. And then once again, Webcast rewards the patient viewer with coherence as everything starts clicking into place. Chloe awakens in the woods, disoriented and helpless, as she finds herself being buried alive. It's morbidly fitting, considering how she dug herself into this mess. Just another victim, absorbed into the ritual. And then, headlights. A car tears through the darkness. Somehow Ed is alive and fighting back, as he forces the cultists back just long enough to pull Chloe free and make their escape. We're left with a question the film never answers. How did Ed survive? And before we can even process that, And just like that, Webcast 2018 does what it has done from the beginning. It resolves the mystery, and then leaves you with several others. Was Chloe's livestream audience ever truly innocent? Were the police merely complicit or fully involved? How deep did the roots of this town actually go? The film topples its carefully constructed dominoes of mystery, only to reveal that the pattern extends far beyond what we could ever imagine. And that final ambiguity leaves us with a chilling effect. Webcast 2018 understands that uncertainty is the key to a horrifying experience. It gives us just enough answers to feel satisfied with the film's conclusion, and just enough doubt so that we never feel safe about it. So, with this video concluding, please seek out this film and support it. Webcast 2018 is genuinely a fantastic watch and worthwhile for any kind of horror fan. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, please consider subscribing, as I assume if you're listening to this, you've made it to the end of the video. And let me know what your interpretations of the themes of this film are, and your thoughts about it. What would you rate it? And maybe give me some suggestions on what you would like to see me cover on the channel next. And as always, be good.